What's up? This is Spectreman and welcome to this new episode. So in the next few seconds I will just trick your mind with these two short clips. Hey, just wait. First go to the settings and select the maximum resolution, that is 720p 60 frames per second, and then play it. And here we go. Okay, so I want you to just look to this clip for 5 seconds. Now just watch this clip. Now you will definitely feel some change. Okay, now we will switch to another clip. Now you will feel much change from the previous two clips. Okay, so what was actually happening behind this? So it was actually not tricking your mind, it was actually you had no idea about what was going on. These clips were of different frame rate. The first one was 15 frames per second, the second one was 30 frames per second, and the another one was 60 frames per second. Okay, so why does it actually feel and look different when you watch two clips with different frame rates? And here is the reason. So the reason why it looks and feels different, it depends on our brain and our eyes. Our eyes captures the image continuously and it sends this image to the brain, and the brain processes the image. So that processing actually takes some time. So now here is the question: how much time does it take to process an image by a human mind? Okay, so let me put it straightforward. Well, a brain processes 60 images per second on average best. Okay, now let's consider a scenario where a person is standing and there is something happening in front of him. So actually the scene reflects infinite rays to his eyes. Now it depends on his brain and his eyes that how much of rays does it captures. So as I said, a human brain captures 60 images per second, and that is the brain capable of. So what we actually see is 60 images per second of what we are seeing. So the things that I just talked about, I didn't mention anything about camera and camera frames per second. So what role does the camera plays in this? Let's make it clear. Okay, so it is pretty simple and straightforward. Just consider the camera of your smartphone or just a regular camera as an eye. So what an eye does is it captures 60 images per second. Similarly, a camera does. It captures the images with some frame rate actually. At the start of this video, when I said I am tricking your mind, so that were actually the videos that were captured with different frame rates. So with the frame rate with which the video is captured, it is actually presented to the viewer in actually that frame rate. So what a human brain does, it can read up to 60 images per second. So when you are watching a video that has a frame rate of 60 frames per second, then your brain will be capturing all of the frames. But when the video is 30 frames per second, that is this one. So now actually what happens is that your brain captures one frame of the video 2 times. So that is the reason that the 30 frames per second video feels a bit laggy. Well, it doesn't feel laggy, but when you watch a 60 frames per second video, then you will feel the difference. Now it actually doesn't mean that a 60 frames per second video is faster than a 30 frames per second video or a more lower frames per second video. Here what actually the faster is the processor in your mobile or your camera, and in case of a human it is the brain that is faster. Well, this can be cleared by this example. Just look at this clock. Now I am recording this video with 30 frames per second. So you can see that the clock is moving, and now in this video I am recording this clock with 60 frames per second. Now if it were faster, then the 60 frames per second video will have the seconds moving 2 times faster than the 30 frames per second video. But just get the side-by-side comparison of both. The seconds tick in both the clocks are moving same. Okay, now there is another point. How do we make a slow motion video? that looks very slow, but it still looks fine and it doesn't look laggy. So how do we do that? Okay, so for that, just look at this video. This is a 30 frames per second video and it is slow motion. Well, if it is slow motion, then some must be thinking that it was needed to be 1 frames per second or very lower. Well, that's very stupid. So then how a slow motion video is made? And it is pretty simple. You just need to capture more than 30 frames per second video. General playback of the video is 30 frames per second. So when we record a 60 frames per second video and you want to make a slow motion video from it, what we do is we just slow down the frame rate of the video, and so then we just see the 30 frames per second of the video, which makes the motion of the video half, and it then looks in slow motion. So it means that a 60 frames per second video is converted to a slow motion video and its speed will be half of the original video. Now what if we record a video with, let's say, 120 frames per second and then slow down it to 30 frames per second? Then its speed will be 4 times slower than the regular video. Okay. Now keep on increasing the recording frame rates of the video, and when you downscale it to 30 frames per second, you will get slower motion videos. When you are watching this video, this was recorded in 240 frames per second and it was then slowed down to 30 frames per second. So you were watching a 30 frames per second video, but it was recorded in 240 frames per second. Achieving higher frame rates is not easy. You actually need a more high-speed processor, and so is the cost of the device with which you are recording the video. On the other hand, if you are recording a slow motion video with a general phone or a cheap camera, so what actually it does is it records in 240 frames per second, but it reduces the quality and it reduces the resolution of the video. Just as you have seen in this video, it was slow motion but the quality was very bad. Okay guys, so I hope you would have enjoyed this episode and you must have learned so much from it, isn't it? And there is so much to be explored, so you guys must subscribe to my channel and stay focused, be creative, and thanks for watching. Support me on my Patreon account and the links are in the description.